You're watching Past the Wire TV. Saratoga Saturday on Past the Wire TV. Presented by AmWager. Nobody does it better. You're watching Saratoga Saturday. Exclusive coverage every Saturday of the meet. Only on Past the Wire TV.
Ciao, ciao, everybody. Good to see both of you guys. Good to be here for Saratoga Saturday, week 2.
Rocking and rolling.
Delighted. Love you guys. Love everybody that's tuned in. Excited about week 2, Saratoga Saturday.
You know, I'll tell you, the one thing that you could always say about the Saratoga meet, and this is from when it was short, and even now when it's long, it does fly by. Before you know it, you're in week 2, week 3. For the Travers is there, and then you know it's kind of just like, coast home.
Yeah.
I think we got a really interesting show today. We're going to hear from a couple of trainers that have some key runners that are going to run. So that's always interesting. We're going to talk a little bit about some of the riders, who's hot, who's not. We've got a couple of little bonus things to throw in there. We got Geo coming out with a separate show on his own, going solo to the Haskell, Oceanport, New Jersey, Monmouth Park, Geo's backyard. I don't know how many years in a row he's been to the Haskell. He'll tell us in a little bit. But Geo will be doing the Haskell on his own in his one-of-a-kind deep dive style like nobody else. Ciao, ciao, my man, Walter. Before we start, hello, Brian. Before we start, some of you know, some of you don't, most of you do. I give a shout out to my friend Joey B, who sent me this video today. He invited me up there to see him. I didn't go up this year, but he's up there, and he went to visit a very special
was that? Remember that? Good old Papa Smurf. Good to see you, buddy.
Yeah.
Saratoga, look what they did. I'll show you.
That's the window that my dad used to work when I was a little kid. Used to go up there as a kid, was running around all over the racetrack. And it was funny because my dad, because he was working there, always used to say, listen, you come up to the window 100 times. I was 8 years old. I was betting at the $50 window. He would always say, listen, when you come to the window, don't call me Dad. It doesn't sound right. Call me Joe, which was his name. So I used to call him Joe. So people always found that weird. And they were like, why do you call your dad Joe? Long story. So anyway, that's why, because, he just didn't like me coming up to the window, calling him Dad and punching tickets. But the best thing about my dad working that window is he gave me an unlimited line of credit, because I would just go to the window, call out tickets, take them and run away. And,
Beautiful thing, John. Great story.
If they won, he would take the money back. If they didn't, oh well. Chalk it up. So I but that was actually more pressure. And Geo and Jim, you guys will understand this. I find more pressure in picking a horse or giving out a horse or betting a horse and sharing my bet with the people that are watching, or the people on tracking trips, or the people that are reading past the wire that follow along, than I do if I'm on my own and nobody knows what I'm betting. Because I feel that, if I'm on my own, honestly, it's no pressure, because I just know win, lose, or draw, you live to fight another day, But when you have other people kind of following along and riding along with you, it's a whole nother level of pressure, for me anyway.
Don't I know it? How about me when I do my deep dives for an entire card, which, by the way, I'm going to be providing for the Haskell and Haskell Day. I have 2 shout outs too. Most of you guys know that I spent the first weekend or a few days at Saratoga for the opener. Shout out to both Joe and Anthony, 2 gentlemen, good guys that came by and see me, and we talked. We had good racing conversation. and one guy by the name of Matt Newmaster, very unique name that recognized me as I was near the window making a bet. So shout out to those guys.
Absolutely. And shout out to the guy who recognized Big Race Jim.
Yeah. Yeah, Ralph.
Right.
Ralph tracked me down right outside your dad's old window there on Thursday, right after would have been the second race, I think. I was wandering around, and Ralph came up and said hello.
Love it. You know, when we go to the Breeders' Cup, it happens to us. People come up, hey, you're those guys from Past the Wire. Yeah. So we better do good with our selections, because if not, somebody's going to come over someday not too friendly if they lose. So you never know.
Listen, as long as everybody knows they'll never starve, that's for sure. Absolutely.
Ride with us, you'll never starve. One of the things, before we get into the races, I wanted to talk about who's hot, who's not in the saddle. Obviously, Pratt is riding lights out. I think he's probably going to win the meet. He looks like he's determined to win the meet. I know it's early, and I know Irad's going to heat up and usually rides a lot more horses. But in my opinion, you know, Pratt is obviously the hot hand. And I think quietly, Jose Ortiz is riding very, very well, Irad's brother. I think Dylan Davis quietly is riding very, very well. And I think Tyler took a couple of days to get started, but I think he's quietly riding very, very well. Well, Irad is not in his, in my opinion, usual form. And I notice he's not where, and obviously I'm not a jockey, but not where I think he's going to be or think he should be in a lot of races. I think he's wider than he has to be in a lot of races. And he goes to that high seat that he has. You know, sometimes he takes that high seat on a horse, and he seems to be doing that a little bit more often lately than he normally does. Thoughts, guys?
Yeah, I mean, I'll add to that. I don't want to equate that as being similar to a batter in Major League Baseball being in a slump, but strangely enough, Irad, and I've watched him, the first 4 days at Saratoga, it seemed like he wasn't where he needed to be. That would be typical Irad, especially when they were coming and turning for home down the lane. So that's a pretty good point, John. It's still Irad. I think he'll snap out of it. Or maybe it's just mere coincidence that for different reasons, he just didn't get to the spot or didn't have the horse to emerge victorious. But he hasn't been the same, at least the way it looks in the races I have reviewed as well.
Any thoughts, Jim?
Yeah, I think like I said to you, John, last week on the first Saratoga Saturday show, I thought Jose was going to have a really big meet. I think being in Kentucky and building those relationships there is going to pay dividends for him this summer. And, it's working out well for him so far. He's got 5 wins over the first handful of days. Flavian's been riding great. You're right. There's something about him. I don't know. I've just never really been like a huge fan of his for whatever reason. To the point where I'm, like studying and analyzing exactly what he's doing on his horses. But he's off to a hot start, and I texted you a day or two ago, just kind of curious if this was his second or third summer up here full time, and you said that it was his second, and it just got me thinking that perhaps last year he's just kind of getting his feet wet, and this year he's ready to take the training wheels off, so to speak. Not that a world-class rider really has training wheels, but in a new environment, he's probably a little bit more comfortable now, having ridden against this jockey colony for the better part of a year consistently now. And perhaps this is a bit of his New York coming out party, which, by all accounts is good. He's a fantastic rider, and he's been putting on a nice little show the last couple of days. And to your point also, John, I think Dylan Davis has been riding very solidly. I thought he had a decent little Belmont festival up here a month or so ago. And that seems to have carried over. He's got 3 wins and 3/3 on the meet so far. Obviously don't expect him to be in the top 3 of riders in terms of wins when it's all said and done, but he's a guy that every single time he's going to give an A+ effort and is going to give the horse the best opportunity for the best placing. And he's always a guy that I like to follow.
I agree. You know who else I'd say is not really riding in the form that I'm used to them riding, and I think Luis Saez is a tiger of a rider. Okay, one of my favorite riders in the world.
Yeah.
But he hasn't really, in my opinion, so far, and I know it's early, but he hasn't really hit that Luis stride that he got. And he's another guy who went to Kentucky before Jose did. And I don't know. I guess my jury is out on whether or not it's helped or hurt his career. I thought it was an interesting move when he did it, but it doesn't seem to be all that hot as of yet, but I'm sure he'll get his wins.
I want to add a point to that, John. I mean, is it fair for us to fully evaluate things after one weekend? Absolutely not. Mind you, in my opinion, for the meet, let's give it 3 weeks, somewhere in the area of 40 to 50 mounts, especially much more than they've already run. And I'm sure you're going to see a lot more from Irad. You're definitely going to see a lot more from Luis Saez. Pratt has entered an elite status. I've said this on many shows. I believe that Flavien is elite, all right? So he's going to make his presence felt all meet long. But you're going to see a lot more from Johnny V, Castellano, Louise, and Irad, and Jose. Let's see where things are in week 3 going into week 4.
Now, before we get into the races, let's touch base on a little potential news that we may have. We're not sure, but there is a whisper from a very good source that Fierceness missed the bus or the van to Monmouth Park for the Haskell. Might not be on the grounds, which means he might be running in the Jim Dandy and not the Haskell, which makes sense, even though we don't know it yet, from the standpoint that you look and Mike Rapoli's got Mindframe, who looks like an up-and-coming beast, even the morning line favorite over Fierceness in the Haskell. So it would make sense to maybe want to keep those two apart. But that's the buzz, right, Geo?
Yep. And if the buzz is true, and I think it really is, Fierceness stays at Saratoga, barn there, runs in the Jim Dandy. He smashes that field for $500,000, and then he has 1 month to prepare for the Travers. It does make sense.
Okay, here's my prediction. If he runs in the Jim Dandy, okay, he doesn't smash the field, even though he likes Saratoga. But if he runs in the Jim Dandy, he doesn't smash the field. But I would not be surprised, and I said this, I don't know, a month ago, if Fierceness ain't in the gate in Oceanport, New Jersey on Saturday, or Saratoga Springs the following Saturday. I'm just not told that he's going to be in the gate. Maybe he will be, maybe he won't, but
he's got a couple nice workouts that were leading to the Haskell.
We'll see.
And by the way, the Haskell Stakes, and we're going to get into that when I do my show, folks, but Dornock's going to make his presence felt, as is Timberlake. It's a nice field. With or without Fierceness, but I feel good for Fierceness if he remains over in Saratoga, runs successfully in the Jim Dandy, and has that nice 4-week period of time to get ready for the Travers.
All right. Well, lot to go cover. So let's move to the first race that we are going to talk about.
John, excuse me a second. Didn't we want to add some thoughts about the first weekend at Saratoga? Just to sort of recap it.
Let's do it.
Okay. I guess I'll start it up. I just want to add a comment because of what I shared, the horses I provided for the first big 3 stakes races. Carl Spackler took care of business in the Kelso. I know the field was abbreviated, but he ran big. He and he took care of business. I was very happy about that. What happened in the Diana, and maybe you guys can elaborate more, was a surprise to me. But obviously they allowed White Beam to have a walk in the park. And then in the Sanford, I was very surprised at the lack of run that War Tax had. Cold on the board, cold on the track, but I lived the values of my handicap, and you're going to see that horse make his presence felt this year. So it was disappointing to see him finish where he finished, but I knew it after the first half mile he didn't have it. And that horse ran big in his debut, and that race at Churchill really stuck out to me, and that's why I backed War Tax. So for anybody that was on War Tax with me, you'll make your money back inevitably again.
Well, I will say this. Saratoga's been kicking my ass so far, and you've been kind of hot. So, you know, that's just, you know, how it goes. But, you know, one thing about those tables in this game and every other game, they always turn. It was a rough weekend for me. I liked the Godolphin horse that scratched. I thought he was going to get the jump on Carl Spackler. I think that might have made the difference. And as the race played out, and Carl Spackler had to kind of, you know, dig in to wear down that other horse, who we talked about on the show the week before, improving for Todd in the third start. But I think that the Godolphin horse would have been a handful had he ran. I loved Capice in the Diana. Loved her. Made a nice bet on her. Thought the 6-7-1 that she was hovering at and closing at 6-1 was an extremely fair price. And if you watch the race, she was further back off that slow pace than I think she needed to be. But if you watch that race down the lane, Tyler Gaffleone absolutely kept Frankie Dettori pinned in, did not let him get out, never had a chance to let that filly really run or get into gear. You know, she was between horses, far back off a slow pace, and then really kept very, very tight. I thought her gallop out was excellent. So, you know, I'm not going to say she's going to win next time out, but I'm going to draw a line through that race and definitely give her a long, hard look if she winds up in the right spot next time out, because I don't think she got to show her stuff. In the 2-year-old race, I didn't like the horse that you liked. I wasn't really in love with anybody in that race. I liked Mr. Squeaky Wheels, I think his name was. He was a big price. I think he ran a big race, obviously not good enough, but he did put himself into contention. Looked like he might have had a shot at 1 or 2 points in the race, but just quite wasn't up to that caliber. But Copice kind of stung a little bit because I took a shot there. But I don't think that the 2-year-old race really had any stars. I know the winner looks good.
New York Red.
Yeah, but I think there's a lot of better 2-year-olds on the grounds than him, and we'll hear from them all later as the meet goes on. And we're going to check in. We're going to hear from Chad and see what he had to say about some of his horses. And I don't know what, if anything, he had to say about Copice, because he spoke to Big Race Jim.
Most, learning from a man, Bobby Frankel, that really taught me so much. And it was one of the races he targeted, and particularly with turf fillies, he just passed down so much knowledge to me. I'm just appreciative for it. And then having the right horses through the years and growing up around here, I'm well aware of the most prestigious races that are Saratoga, and the Diana is way up there on the list. And I'm just fortunate to have horses good enough, and my team's just done a fabulous job through the years for 9 wins, and a lot of the original team members are still here, and they've played such a crucial role in developing these turf mares to have success in a race like that. Her last couple works going on the race were the best I've seen this year. It looked like she was in a good form cycle, 3rd start of the year. She loved Saratoga. The pace looked to benefit her with not much signed on, and we had a plan to go to the lead, so it all worked out with her. I was pretty confident going in, but it was a pretty deep field, and I think she showed a lot of hard kicking for home and been able to hold off some nice horses. She was unfortunate that trip. She's been unlucky since she's been here. She's always trained great. I'm very high on her. I think she's has a ton of ability, and she acts like a grade 1 horse for sure. She's had some challenging trips inside in all 3 of her starts, saving ground and such, but not being able to get a clear run when she was ready. So hopefully in her next race we'll be able to guide her to the outside somehow if it works out that way, and we can see what she can do that last quarter in the clear. Her biggest problem was the lack of pace in the race, and her and Fluffy Socks were severely compromised by that, and they're not effective at all when there's no pace in the race. You know, when you stretch horses out in distance, particularly from that mile to mile and eighth, that's the risk. You know, you're going to run out of pace and take away from their kick. So we'll consider cutting her back. I think with more pace in the race going forward, you'll see her get back into form.
Last week, I love it. Last week I didn't watch the Shug discussion that you had, and he kind of mirrored what I said, and you heard it yourself. We didn't get the graphic for Copice up for whatever reason, but he was talking about Copice, and he kind of saw it the way I did, and before the race, I said that filly got a big grade 1 race in her. He kind of echoed that. I felt the same way about her trips, particularly this last one. And I think she's going to pay me back everything I lost and more at some point. Hopefully I'm on her at the right time. And hopefully not too many people hear this and follow along.
Yeah, and Gina Romanica ran big too for Chad too. She ran a big race. I mean, she just missed second by 2 inches when Moira came on, but he's got some.
I still think, and you know me, I'm hard-headed. I guess it's the Calabrese part of me, but I still think Copice is the best horse in that race. So
yeah, my hesitation with her is just, it's 2 races in a row where she was live enough to win last weekend. Just got beat by a nose at Churchill Downs on Derby Day or Oaks Day, whatever it was. Yeah, I don't know how many chances are we going to how many chances are we going to give her?
He's burning a lot of money, a lot of it mine too. I bet her at Churchill Downs that day too. So.
But to be fair, White, like I said, that table set pace White Beam had. I mean, even Didier didn't run a bad race. I told a lot of my following, if the half is 47-1, not 49-1, you may have seen Didier flying down the lane and winning the race.
Yeah. When's the last time you've seen a graded stakes race in New York on the turf that was faster than 48? I mean,
yeah.
Right.
49 is the new 47.
Right. Yeah. And you're dead right. You're spot on. I remember, and Geo, you probably remember this. Big Race Jim, I'm not sure that you do, but when Jerry Bailey had his about 10-year run when he was dominating that meet, winning all those grass races for Bill Mott on those Alan Paulson horses, he used to always say, I'll stay on the rail, and on turf 90% of the time, the last move wins.
Yeah.
And now, if you ride with that philosophy on the turf in New York, you're lucky you win 1 out of 10 because nobody goes. One guy goes, and that's it. Everybody else is compromised. So I don't know how that changed. I think that whole dynamic and the way they ride, especially in New York on the grass, is a little.
Hey, how about that race, John? Frankie Dettori won on the 10 horse, Cachet something at Keeneland.
Yeah.
Remember? Dismissed
25-50. You get 25-50 to the half, the race is over. So It is frustrating when you bet an off the pace horse and you think there's pace, but it happens. Now, Coaching Club American Oaks, we got the Grizzly Bear back, Thorpedo Anna.
We're gonna do the Curlin first since that's on Friday.
Okay, let's do the Curlin. We got some insight here too, don't we?
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, looking at this race, the big question is, are they going to be able to catch this unmatched wisdom? And as far as Shug McGaughey is concerned with Corporate Power, he feels like he's got a big shot, telling me last week that this is a true 1 1/8 horse. And he's been very high on Corporate Power for a while, and he's looking forward to having him in there on Friday.
He just won the Sir Barton. We'll see how he does in there. True 1.125 2-turn horse, and hopefully he'll run big, and maybe we can run him back in the Travers or something. I don't know. I've seen a lot of difference in him, but I'm hoping as we go along with racing and stuff, he'll mature. He still makes some mistakes in his races, and some he's been able to overcome it a little bit. But he, as he keeps going up the ladder, he can't make mistakes. So, but like I say, I think he's a true 1.125 2-turn horse. So we'll just see how he does. But I'm looking forward to running him.
There you go, straight from Shug. Who sounds like he's always been pretty subdued when it comes to his horses.
That's actually a confidence.
Yeah.
Shug, if you know him over the years.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
One thing about Shug that goes back since he took over the Phipps barn from Angel Penna, seems like a million years ago now, but he doesn't run his horses where they don't belong, and especially at the graded stake level. So, once he starts stepping up there, he's one of those guys that lets the horses bring him there as opposed to him bringing the horses there. He won't run a horse really over their head. So the horse obviously belongs. I think they're going to have a hard time beating the favorite in that race, especially from the rail. If the rail is good, especially the way Pratt is riding and Chad heats up at Saratoga. But for the people that like to play the odds and play the board, with one horse 4-5, 3-5, Mott's horse, maybe 2-1, 5-2, that horse is going to be every bit of 7-2, 4-1. So odds wise, I guess he's the attractive play in that race if you're guided by the odds. We know I'm not. I'm one of the rare people that I bet who I think is going to win, whether they're 50-1 or whether they're 6-5. That's just how I am. But
I'm sorry, John. Why don't we go through, since it's a short field for everybody, let's just all have our bullet point or thought on each horse. We'll go down in post-position order.
Sure. Like
we've done with many, and we could get through the curling pretty quick.
Go ahead, Geo.
All right, I'll start off with Unmatched Wisdom. And Mike, we're going to take each horse and thoughts on each, or we're going to go through the whole field?
Go through the whole field. Run them down.
Okay, so Unmatched Wisdom, deserving favorite. I mean, the horse is stepping up here. The 2 wins were both visually impressive. Big numbers too, a 98 bar and a 93. I do think the horse can move forward, but this is a big step up. And I like two others in the race a little more. We just heard from Shug regarding Corporate Power. I trust Castellano on this mount. It is the son of Curlin. So the son of Curlin running in the Curlin. And I landed not on Corporate Power, but I put Corporate Power in my exacta. Very impressed with the Gulfstream races, then moving to the Big A in Pimlico. And if you look who the horse beat, she beat a few next out winners as well. So I see a forward movement in Corporate Power. The 3 I won't use. The 3 will be a pace factor. Sayaz is up for Juan Avila, but solely for a pace factor. I think the 3 is going to be up early and fold late. The 4 is who I land on, my top choice. Very impressed with Mott's effort here. Also, the son of Curlin, solid 1.125 mile, which is this distance buyer at 95 and a maiden special. I think this horse is built for the distance. Rosario's up for Mott. I land on Timeout. I think Timeout runs them all down with Corporate Power second. One quick thought on the 5 and the 6. Both Ken McPeak horses. I do have respect for Elephant's Ear, son of Vino Rosso, improving. I just think that guy needs one more race to get to his best. That's Elephant's Ear. And I don't like the 6 at all.
Jim, thoughts?
Yeah, I think, like I said off the top, everybody's going to be trying to run down Unmatched Wisdom, best speed figures in the field when you look at it on DRF and Brisnet. Corporate Power, he beat Gould's Gold in that Sir Barton. And Gould's Gold has been training alongside Thorpedo Anna in the mornings for Ken McPeak. So, read into that what you will. I think Corporate Power, you'll probably get a square price on him around that 4-1 range. I just wonder if he's fast enough late to be able to catch Unmatched Wisdom. I also like Timeout. I think this horse for Bill Mott, Mott always takes his time with his horses, and this one's got 3 starts under his belt now, and his last one was the best of the 3. So I'm expecting this horse to take another step forward, and his late pace figures are a little bit better than Corporate Powers. So I would lean on Timeout to be closing more ground than Corporate Power against Unmatched Wisdom. It's just a matter of whether or not he's got enough late kick to catch Unmatched Wisdom. Elephant's Ear and the other one for Ken McPeak. The jockey choices kind of stuck out to me because on paper it looked like this Django was a bit better, the Elephant's Ear was a bit better looking on paper. And I was just curious as to why BJ Hernandez would be on the one that looked, a little weaker on paper. Not that I was overly interested in either of them, but that little jockey dynamic at least stuck out to me, and I thought was worth mentioning.
I found that a little bit curious myself, but didn't Colby win a race for Kenny up there or recently somewhere? So maybe he promised him a nice one, and put him on there.
See you guys. Oh, back. John, your thoughts?
We're here. My price is going to be probably in the Lake George. I think this race comes down to the 2 very logical horses, Chad's horse and Bill Mott's horse. I don't think I kind of agree with Geo. I think Shug's horse. Well, no, you said that about Elephant Ear. I think Shug's horse may be another race or 2 away from really stepping up and being able to beat this kind. If those 2 horses are as good as they look, I do think on paper the one might have from the rail a little bit of a pace advantage on Bill Mott's horse, and he's going to have to be able to overcome that in order to win. So I think that's really going to be a jockey's race between Pratt and Rosario, with Pratt absolutely getting the jump on him. At least he should, and he's going to if Chad's horse runs back to his last timeout is going to have to step forward again, to run him down. And Kenny, absolutely. But there's nothing fancy there. I think the race comes down, in my opinion, to one of those 2. It's a question of, do you want the one with the jump on the lead, or do you want the one that's going to kind of have to go get him?
Yeah, I'm going to share a wagering opportunity. I'm going cold 4-2-1 and 4-1-2 in 2 triples. And I'm playing 1 superfecta.
I love you, but that's not cold. Cold is 4-1-2 or 4-2-1.
I know, but I think the 1 and the 2, 4 is going to pass them all. And I think Chad's horse and Corporate Power are going to be very close, deep in stretch with the 4 winning. So I don't want to lose a photo. But you're right, John. If I'm going absolute cold, it's 4-2-1.
Okay.
Well, if one of them wins, it's cold, because then you just forget about the other one.
Oh, I'm putting a nice win bet on Timeout.
Well, what you can do is make sure you bet them on 2 separate tickets, and then the one that wins, you show it at ticket.
Right. Yeah,
I was cold.
I got it ice cold. There's always that option.
All right, the Coaching Club American Oaks, the return of Thorpedo Anna, not that she's been away very long. She won the Acorn up here on Belmont weekend just about a month ago. Another short field in this race. I think as long as I've lived up here, which is going on over a decade now, I don't know that I've ever seen more than 5 horses in this race on the second weekend at Saratoga. But I think most people are going to gravitate obviously towards the 3. She's the best horse in the field. I did think though that there were some interesting things about at least 2 others in here, namely Candied. She had a 98 Brisnet speed figure last time out, which is only a couple of ticks behind Thorpedo Anna's 101 Brisnet that she got in the Acorn. So not a lot difference in terms of the speed figures between those 2. Based on her last 2 races, though, I think she might be just a cut below the rest here. Let me get
glad
this
you
in the
put
right
that up,
box.
because we
There
could
we
go
go.
in order, each horse down
Yeah.
the lane for each of us. Yeah, let's do that in order.
So, I think she might be a little bit of a cut below some of the others in here, but certainly a player just looking at the Brisnet speed figures. She doesn't need to improve all of that much to be in the mix with this group.
Geo?
Okay, Candy. I was at Monmouth and watched the horse win. Impressively, I expected her. She was odds on. I had a bet on her, but nothing to write home about. She did gallop out well, training well. I trusted Todd is moving her in the right direction. I like her physicality. Any horse, daughter of Candy Ride, she is 3 for 5. But on a win end, in my opinion, she's not ready to beat Thorpedo Anna. I did have her as a strong second here. So I'm going to use her in my exotics, in my exactor, and my triple going cold, but I will not use her on my ticket to win this race. John?
I don't think she's up to beating Thorpedo Anna myself. There's really only one horse that I think, if something fluky happens, which, Saratoga, they don't call it the graveyard of favorites for nothing. Who thought American Pharaoh was going to lose to Travers? You know what I mean? So, they all get beat at some point, or at least most of them. And a lot of those beats tend to happen up at the spot. But I don't think Candy is the one that could potentially upset a horse that's going to be very hard to upset in this particular race.
Yeah.
Okay, let's
I
go
agree.
to
I'm just trying to look up a quick result here, because this was the race that Maracuja sprung that big upset over
That's
Malathot and Clairiere at whatever it was, 14-15 to 1. So stranger things have happened for sure.
And I think the viewers need to know that this race historically is a stepping stone. It's a rich race. I mean, what's the purse? $500,000. It's a stepping stone to the main Philly event, which is the Alabama.
Yeah, at this point it is. It used to be a big race in and of itself, and it used to actually be 1.5 miles and part of the Philly Triple Crown, which was the Acorn, the Mother Goose, and the Coaching Club American Oaks. And it was run, way before this. But that's changed, and now you're right. It probably is the major stepping stone to the Alabama, and it's 1.8 miles, not 1.5 miles anymore, like the Belmont is. But
just given the number of horses that have been in this race for the last, seemingly 10 years, it's amazing that this race is still a grade 1. It's just
well, it's, got a lot of
for another day.
Yeah, it's got a lot of history to it, but I totally agree.
Barbertina would shock me, honestly. Just not seemingly match up very well with the rest of this field.
No argument.
Okay, my notes on Barbatina, just to share, because I always do a deep dive. I do appreciate the way, I don't like her in this race, but I do appreciate a filly that ran as a 2-year-old, travels well, and I watched all her races, and she seemed to just run into trouble several times. I don't know if she's had a fast shot. The last race, which was just an optional claim, 100,000. I don't know if it was the Lasix, but she did run well. Do I think she can move forward? Not versus these type, but I'm going to put my radar on George Weaver's horse. I think the horse is going to win soon enough, but I don't think she'll contend in this race.
Thorpedo Anna. I don't know what more there really is to say about this one. And she is seemingly head and shoulders above the rest of her class of fillies. And, obviously the likeliest winner here, just for a little bit of additional context using the Equibase race lens, they've got her with an over 40% chance to win. So I would say that's pretty good. She popped a 101 Brisnet speed figure last time in the Acorn. What do we got here? 99 on DRF. I was just really impressed with the way she pulled away from the field in that race. I thought, just FYI, I was going to give a little bit more of a fight coming back out of the Oaks. And Thorpedo Anna just buried her, buried everybody else. And, the likeliest winner here, I guess maybe a little bit boring at 1-2 or even lower potentially.
Let me share something. John, you want to go first on Thorpedo, or I'll clean up?
Yeah, I mean, there's not a lot to say about her. She has been called by her connections a grizzly bear, and so far she's lived up to the hype. Walter says, does she pull a mallet that? I always like to think they all get beat at some point. We mentioned the graveyard of favorites. I'd love to beat her. There's a horse we'll get to that we'll talk about a little bit. But I think she's going to be awfully tough in here. Sometimes when these 3-year-old fillies get good, they just get good, and she's good. She's probably, if she wins this and wins it big, she's probably going to be considered for the Travers, and as opposed to the Alabama. I would guess anyway. I don't know that, but she's going to be a handful if she brings her A game. There's no question about it. She looks like she's got these over a barrel.
John, you finished with a nice quote there, and I'm going to add to that. Listen, physically, she's almost built like a colt. She's unrelenting. When she wins by open lens. I couldn't believe the price she was dismissed at in the Kentucky Oaks, because she demonstrated some rare ability prior to that. Mr. Sette made a nice profit on that race for sure. Another point on her, she's not 1-2 in this race. I'd be shocked, and I say with a capital S, if she's not 1-5, if not 1-9. And the reason for that, if you look at her path, she's been trained perfectly, and there's been no threat to her. So even if she gets a minor threat in this race, what she does in the final quarter of her races is what's most impressive. I think she's dynamic. I think she could be as good. I'm not calling it right now, but as good as that filly that won 13 for 13 and won the Breeders' Cup. Who's that again?
Personal Ensign?
Personal Ensign. She's scratching the surface of having that kind of greatness. And if she pulls it off, wipes this field out, wins the Alabama or the Travers, you may see her in the Breeders' Cup in a big race. I'm just very impressed with what she's done. I can't get past it all.
Yeah. Yeah, I I'm rooting for her. I hope she wins by half a dozen lengths or more, because then I think that just increases the likelihood of her ending up in the Travers, which would be really exciting to see. With seemingly the
against the
the
boys.
three-year-old male crop seemingly sputtering through through the spring and into the summer. We'll see, but that would at least bring a little intrigue.
We may have a whole different take on the 3-year-old crop after this weekend with the
True.
the Curlin and the Haskell, and then next week the Jim Dandy. But anybody give
That's
Leslie
true.
Rose a shot to turn the tables?
I liked her. To be honest, I thought I was watching back the Acorn a couple of times over the last few days, prepping for this show, and I thought there was a point there, kind of going towards the end of the backstretch into the far turn, where it looked like she was getting ready to lose all touch with the field, and she was able to kind of re-engage, and I thought she ran on fine when obviously the race was already over, but I thought she did pretty well to re-engage with the field and finished up in decent shape. Do I think she's going to beat Thorpedo Anna? No, but should Thorpedo Anna not be at her best, or even bring her A- or B+ game at this point, I do think outside of her, Leslie's Rose would be the most likeliest one to kind of pick up the pieces, so to speak, and perhaps steal one should Thorpedo Anna falter in any such way.
Okay. Geo?
All right. Yeah, we make a very important point on Leslie's Rose. Just further validates the likeliness of Fierceness staying in Saratoga. Look who's on Leslie's Rose. Johnny V is on Leslie's Rose. Of course, Irad's going to be on Mindframe, but Johnny V is Fierceness's rider. And if Fierceness was going to run in the Haskell, which is very prestigious, Johnny V, in my opinion, would have made the trip, and he wouldn't have been listed here on Leslie's Rose. So Leslie's Rose, I'll be very quick. I like the filly. It isn't into mischief. Todd Pletcher, I trust, and well-traveled. But to turn the tables on Thorpedo Anna, it's just not going to happen. Thorpedo Anna is just better in regarding. And I just think that Candide has taken another step forward. And I like Candide underneath Thorpedo Anna is more appealing to me than Leslie's Rose. John?
I saw Leslie's Rose run in person at Gulfstream Park. I thought she was going to be a really nice filly. Maybe towards the top of the class. She's kind of been a little bit in and out, but I don't think that she's got enough in her to turn the tables at this particular point. So no, I don't think that she's going to be the one to upset her if she does get upset.
So that must mean that you like Intricate.
Well, I don't know that we're going to say that I like Intricate. I think that Intricate is sitting on a big improving type of race, and I would say that if I bet a race, and when I say cold, I mean ice cold, I would bet Thorpedo Anna over Intricate cold, and that's just it. I think Intricate is going to make a little bit of noise here. I think she's sitting on a forward race. I don't know that she's good enough to run with or handle Thorpedo Anna. That's going to be, a big ask for her. But, I do think she's got as good a chance as any of the other fillies to run second. And if Thorpedo Anna does falter or not show up for any reason, this is the one that I think is going to be there to capitalize on that. But I think, two things would have to happen in order for that to play out. I think Thorpedo Anna would absolutely have to not show up, and this filly would have to take a nice step forward. And I'm confident that this filly can take a step forward. But if Thorpedo Anna shows up, that probably doesn't matter, but it can get her into the second slot. And I think she'll be a bigger price in the second slot than a lot of the others, which makes that, in my opinion, the way I see the race, a pretty decent exacta, ice cold if you're looking to create some value and not go against the chalk.
Interesting. If I could go now, good timing for it, and then we'll hear from Jim. Intricate is the only horse to actually defeat Thorpedo Anna, but under totally different circumstances. She was a juvenile. It was in the Golden Rod, Grade 2. I watched the race several times. Impressive in that win, but the horse really never progressed from that big win in terms of escalating her race times. I thought she was very flat at the fairgrounds. She did race well her last race. I think I agree with you, John. I think she should move forward off her last couple. And Brandon Walsh is in my opinion, very under the radar in terms of how good he is, in terms of how he prepares a horse, whether it's on the lawn or on a dirt race like this, going a mile and an eighth. Dirt race. Too much to ask to defeat Thorpedo Anna, but do I see an improved race? Yeah, and that's why I felt like the Colt Triple 3-1-5 to me was an attractive opportunity.
It's interesting, Gio. The reason that you don't like her is the reason that I do, and I'll explain to you why. I think she showed a lot of ability at 2, and like you said, she seemed to come back off that layoff a little bit flat. Didn't really go forward, and I expected her to. But what makes me think that that's going to happen now is I like her works. I like the way she's looking when you see her, and I like the fact that Brendan Walsh doesn't back off. Even though she hasn't gone forward, he's going forward with her. So maybe there's something there that doesn't jump out in the racing form. Maybe he knows that she needed a couple or that she's getting better. And I think that she is rounding back into that form, and she's finally going to take that step forward, because I do think she's a runner. So I'm looking to see that move forward in this race. And like I said, unfortunately, she's running against a grizzly bear, lack of a better term. It's going to be overused pretty soon. But if this was a wide open race, I'd be all over her at a nice price. Yeah. But the alternative may be just to play the exacta ice cold and hope for the best.
Interesting, John. One more comment on Walsh, and I appreciate that you added to what I said about him. I have no reservations about the distance. She is a gun runner, and I think she wants more distance. And she could be. Yeah, listen, I came up with Thorpedo Anna, Candide, and Intricate, and only that. But I could see Intricate running second. I just can't get past Thorpedo Anna. But I appreciate and respect what you're saying.
All right, we're finally going to get to a race where I like a price.
Woo! This is a big
field. Listen. Sometimes it is what it is. You got to take what they give you. You know what I mean? And sometimes, a lot of people are like, "Well, I don't like this horse at that price. I can't bet this." I bet I like who I think is going to win. Like I say, there's no value in a losing bet as far as I'm concerned. But everybody doesn't have that philosophy. But I like a price here. So, how you want to handle this one? Want to talk about who we like? Want to run down the whole field? What do you want to do?
No, it's a big race. It's a big field. I feel it'd be great for the viewers if we go in post position order and we share our thoughts and where we land ultimately.
We may be here till midnight.
Well, how long has the show been on right now?
An hour.
All right. I have a lot to say about the horses that made my handicap, but it's your call. How do you want to do this?
Listen, this is a democracy. You guys tell me.
I think we should do it because it completes our Saratoga Saturday, right? And it completes it. So I think we should go horse by horse and go around the table.
Jim, you're the deciding vote.
All right. Yeah, that's fine. We can go horse by horse. There's only there's a couple in here that I've got some pretty strong opinions on. But before we do that, let's hear from Chad again. I hung out at his barn for a little while earlier this week, and he had a lot to say. So we cut up a soundbite, him giving a preview of Oversubscribe and Sweet Rebecca here in the Lake George Stakes.
That's great. I'm betting against them. Let's go.
Sweet Rebecca and Oversubscribed are two really nice fillies. They've proven stakes caliber types, and I think the distance will suit them here. Sweet Rebecca has a little bit more speed than Oversubscribed, but they're both training fabulous. And yeah, it's another race we've had a lot of success with through the years, and I think it's a great race that NYRA has on the schedule every year. That these 3-year-old turf fillies and that are still developing and could have some bigger goals down the road.
All right, there you go.
Always
Not much to
Chad.
glean from that, other than a little bit of a pace factor between these two, I guess.
You got to know Chad, okay? He plays it close to the vest, but he does give his little tells. You know what I mean? He likes his horses. What are you going to do?
Yeah, and by the way, when you get 3-year-olds going a mile on a lawn, it's always interesting for a group of fillies like this, and that's why I feel like we sharing our thoughts on every horse will help the viewers make the most informed decision they can at the window. Let's do it.
All right, go ahead. Kick us off.
All right, I'll kick us off with the horse on the rail. BJ Hernandez up for Albert Stall. By the way, very quietly, Albert Stall is having a very, very good start to the Saratoga meet. This is the horse's second race in 24, second off a layoff. I do like the turf works. I should say the last work on the turf and the one prior to the one on the dirt. The angle, second off the layoff, I think the pedigree matches the distance, proven at the distance. I like this horse, don't love him. I'm using him exclusively underneath in my exotics.
Big race.
Yeah, I think probably the best thing for this horse is cutting back to a mile. Best race came at Churchill last year. Just don't know that this one's necessarily a strong win contender in my book, but I think the cut back to a mile probably bodes pretty well.
I could tell you how I feel about her in this particular spot in 3 words. A, cut below.
Okay, John. Sometimes you need to be succinct. I can be succinct at times too.
She looks a cut below a few of these to me.
Okay. I'll lead off with Oversubscribe or not, Jim?
Yeah, go ahead.
All right, Oversubscribe. I do like that Rosario is new on the horse for Chad Brown. The horse is training well. In a mile race, and she's proven at the distance, the one thing that struck a chord with me in this field, when I evaluated the whole field, watched a lot of race replay, the number one thing this horse is going to need a primo trip. Is Rosario capable of providing it? Yeah. A lot of things have to go right. The horse is talented, fit, belongs in this race at a mile. I trust Chad Brown. But in this spot, even though I'm going to use Oversubscribe in my exotics, I had her ranked 4th in this race. I like Chad's other horse a lot more, which I'll get into when we get to her.
Okay, Jim?
So her and the other one for Bill Mott, Galabrand, are coming out of the Wild Applause. And, Geo, if you watch that replay, you had those 2 horses basically on a suicide mission that were 20 lengths in front, halfway down the backstretch. And, I jokingly said that, no turf races in New York are run faster than 49 these days. But that one went in 46, and there were those two horses up front, both folded like chairs towards the end, and I think oversubscribed. Probably got the best of that type of race and pace setup. I don't know that this is going to be the same sort of race shape for her, and definitely a contender, but I think she's going to be overbet. And I think, given how that Wild Applause set up, I think some of these figures might be a little bit inflated, just given the sort of goofiness of that race. So a contender, but not my top pick.
Okay. I agree with Big Race Jim, and I guess you too, Geo. A contender, but not where I'm landing. But she is an up and comer. She is getting better. She's lightly raced. Chad develops them, and they sometimes continue to improve. So I probably rate her with a better chance than you two guys do, but she is not where I land.
Interesting. Okay,
I'll lead. Gold.
Should I lead with we'll stay in the same order?
Why not?
All right, Manama Gold. Impressed in a lot of ways with this gal. She made my handicap. She's going to be my second choice, a strong second choice. When I looked at pace, first of all, a mile on the lawn, I want a horse that's going to be forward. I just want it. What she did in Dubai, she demonstrated speed 3 times, obviously on a different surface. It's on the dirt. She's trying to turf for the first time. However, that's when I dig down deep into the pedigree, and I got check marks on both ends, even deeper in the bloodlines. There's a lot of turf. I have no reservations about her performing well on the turf. Louisiana bred, tries the turf, $200,000 as a yearling. Johnny V's up. What she did in her first race at Saratoga, if you watch that race, the one thing that impressed me most, and she was beaten by a real good filly, was that she was willing. She took to the task at hand. So that's going to translate to me stretching out onto the turf. I think she'll be forward. I think she'll be in the mix probably until the 8th pole, deep in the race, and she gets caught late by the horse who I like most, which I'll get into.
Yeah, this Monoma Gold for me, I thought probably needed that last race on Belmont weekend. I think the 6 furlongs is probably a little short for her. Seems to be doing her best running longer. The first time on the grass is a little bit of a knock, but that almost gone rocket that beat her last time in that Jersey Girl is really no slouch. That's a really quality horse that she lost to. So I'm willing to back this one again. Coming off of that 6 furlong effort, I think the added distance is going to suit her well. She should be fine on the turf, I think. I landed on her as my top pick in here.
Wow, interesting there, Jim.
Interesting pick. I don't like her. I don't believe that she's a grass horse. And sometimes if they're not grass horses, they may not have that same speed that they have on the dirt, on the turf, but we'll see. But I got to bring this up because I like to take things head on, and we have been called a comedy act.
A comedy act, huh?
I take offense at that. I don't like the C note. I don't like that. So, Mr. Cohn, I can tell you this. I take wagering on horses as serious as a heart attack. So if we're coming across as a comedy act to you, I don't know exactly why, but that is certainly not our intention. So
I guess maybe he's saying we have something called a little personality, but this is not no laughing matter.
I don't know. He says, Lord love him, not complaining. It's comical. Just never knew we were a comedy act.
Oh, wow.
I take offense at it.
So Howie, if I'm amusing you, it's all good. Laughter's a good thing, but we are deep-rooted, hardcore horsemen with more experience than you probably ever met in your life. I don't know who's in your circle, and Jim is up and coming into that circle. He's just younger than we are.
Okay.
I don't know that I've ever given out a 7-horse superfecta box, though.
Well, I say the odds tell you when to do that. I always go cold in a key, but if the situation lends itself to horses that made my handicap and four of them are on the board at 20-1 or better, common sense says you need to cover yourself with the proper bet.
Well, we have different philosophies on that, but that's a whole nother conversation. Let's get back to the race. I just wanted to bring that up and see if that gentleman.
We appreciate all comments. Bring them on.
Yeah, no, I say what you think. I'll take it on the chin, but I'm offended at somebody saying we're a comedy act.
Maybe he's had a few too many losing tickets lately, and he's just spewing some stuff out.
All right, we're getting closer to the horse I like that I don't think anybody else is going to like, but let's continue on.
Can I lead off on the 4?
That's the order. It's
all right. That's it. How do you pronounce his name?
Viva Vu.
Okay, the double V horse. I always liked Jack Sisterton as a trainer. Also, the jockey Ramon Vasquez. Very nice turf wins. Should close well. I gave him a thumbs up and a grade for his willingness to do his best running late. He's also proven it. She's also proven at the mile. As I always say, you can't kiss all the girls. This horse should make her presence felt in the stretch because she seemingly always comes. I do have her deep in my handicap, which I'm going to place in what I call my superfecta key, 6th under my top choice. What's the 4?
She's always close, which is a good thing. I'm just not overly impressed with her overall figures and her overall body of work. So, in the for the sake of brevity, not for me.
I'm with you. Don't like.
Okay, Gallop Brand, the 5. Jose Lascano up for Belmont. Belmont always makes you strike a chord and dig down deeper. I love the fact that she's a gal that is 2 for 2 at Saratoga. I made sure I highlighted it with my pink marker. It's a second race in 24, so second off a layoff. I thought the company she faced was pretty strong. She also comes out of that race with the 2 oversubscribed with that ridiculous pace. She did have a rough trip, so I gave her an excuse in that race. Do I think she's good enough to beat this field? No, because she needs to run faster. She also needs a titanically big trip. I trust Belmont. She did make my grade way bottom in my gimmicks. She wasn't a throwout. I'm using her in my deeper superfecta gimmicks.
Yeah, I liked this horse a lot last year. And she's another one like oversubscribed coming out of that Wild Applause that saw those two horses just run out of there and be ahead by 20 lengths or more. And I thought she ran on pretty well late. She got a 94 late pace figure in Brisnet. So if it was coming down to Galibrand and oversubscribed, I would probably lean more on Galibrand, just given that I felt like perhaps that race setup probably worked against her rather than it working for oversubscribed, in my opinion. But I do think, like I said about Coppice earlier, you almost have to kind of wonder about these horses that you're looking at and trying to make excuses for. And as I was looking at this field, I felt like I kept going back to Galibrand because I liked her in that Wild Applause. I liked her last year, and I just keep trying to make excuses for her to bet her back, and I'm not going to do that in this race. So she's a pass for me.
Okay, two things. One, our comedy guy is back. Howie, I appreciate the response. Point taken. No problem. No hard feelings. Glad you're watching. And we move past that. Now, back to the race. I like Galibrand a lot. That's absolutely where I land. I believe this gentleman, Walter, who's a pretty sharp handicapper, and I know agrees with me. I'll tell you what, this filly is 2 for 2 at the Spa. I know she comes out of that race that really looked like a very good setup for her, but I think she needed the race. I really do. She ran like a horse that needed the race. I think that they were pointing for this race, knowing that she loves the Spa. And Saratoga, turf or dirt, to me, is probably one of the biggest horse for course racetracks in the world and has been for 100 years. Horses that win up there tend to win back up there. I think she needed the race. I think she showed enough at 2, beating the boys. The Breeders' Cup didn't have the best of trips, and a lot of horses just are not up to the Breeders' Cup, but I think she needed the last. I think she goes forward. I think she gets completely overlooked for a couple of different reasons. And I'm glad that she gets overlooked because I'm betting on her. I'm singling her. I'm riding with her. And if she wins, it's going to be a nice payday because, like I said, I think she'll be more than the morning line probably when the gates open.
Interesting, John. I'm just going to ask you one other thing. Because obviously I like the fact that she's 2 for 2 at Saratoga. I had mentioned it too. I just thought she had opportunity. She faced some nice fillies, and I saw that race versus the boys. I just felt like the trip is going to be essential. I trust Jose Lascano, but I just felt like in those races as a juvenile, she should have shown a little more of an ability from a buyer perspective or Brisnet, from a speed figure perspective. But I could see your angle that she's definitely sitting on an improved race. And like I said, I trust Belmont, but I find it very interesting that you land on her. So I
like her a lot.
That's good, John. Cool.
I like her a lot.
All right.
Moving right along. Sweet Rebecca, the horse that didn't go to Royal Ascot.
All right, so Sweet Rebecca, since I've been leading off on each of the horses down the post position order, this is who I land on. And I'll give you a number of reasons why. She's my top choice with the 3 second. I had mentioned that I like a horse going a mile on the lawn who's going to be forward. I looked into all the speed in the race, and I know there's some real speed and there's some phony speed. I think her speed is going to be the type of speed, not to go wire to wire. I think she's going to be sitting a very advantageous, perfect stalking trip. I think Chad's got this horse ready. It is the daughter of American Pharaoh. 250,000 is a yearling. I trust Gaffleone, the only rider this gal has had. always supported at the window. I thought coming from Gulfstream Park in debut, which I was very impressed with that race. Didn't have the best of trips. Then raced on both turf courses at Aqueduct, the inner and the outer. I thought the last race, she could have run better. It was a disappointment at odds on, but she had some excuses. I watched the race a few times over. Not a good trip. I just think she's in the clear, stalking third, and ready to pounce in the stretch. And that's who I land on to win this race.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, she's not my top pick, but I do think she's going to be doing some of her best running towards the end when it's going to matter most. And, I agree with you too, Geo, that given her running style, she should be in prime position to kind of show that off towards the end. Certainly a top contender for sure. And one of the best late runners in the field, which you always have to love on the turf.
I thought this filly was a monster first time out after I saw her run. And obviously, Jon Stewart and Resolute Racing agreed because they went out and bought her for who knows how much. And first time she won, they were talking about bringing her to Royal Ascot. They decided against that. Ran her here instead, and she kind of disappointed. I didn't see a bad trip like Geo did, or many excuses in that race particular that stood out to me. I thought she just was a little flat. It didn't fire, but I still do believe that she has a lot of talent. The two races that she won, she had a really nice burst and a really nice kick. And she's one of the ones I fear. I mean, she's definitely one of the ones that I fear, and I think that to win with Galibrand like I'm going to try and do, I think this is one of the fillies for sure that I'm going to have to beat down the lane. And I'm hoping that we can do it up at Saratoga, but I think Sweet Rebecca is a major player.
Okay, interesting, man, and thank you for the support on her. I'm going to go on to the D Regresso, be short and succinct, even though it's not easy for me. I did like that the horse has a natural nose for the wire. You can never dismiss a horse that comes into a race with 4 quality races, winning 3 straight. But when you look at the quality or the depths of the field, and in her case, the surfaces, because she ran on the synthetic last time out, I just looked at her as being overmatched in the field, and she's going to get money because she comes in on a 3-race win streak. And I like Antonio Sano. I just think she's overmatched in this particular field on the turf, and I couldn't use her.
Yeah, it just seems like on paper there are a handful of other horses in here that are better than her. The only thing I will say, though, and I tweeted this out the other day, I think it was Sunday night, the class ratings in Brisnet have been like on fire at Saratoga with grass races, and she's second in current class behind Pounce. So if nothing else, just give her a little bit of a longer look for that reason alone. That angle has been working quite well. And at 6-1 on the morning line, you might find a little bit of value with her in there, given that class rating.
Can we scroll the PPs up to her?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Okay. 3 words. A cut below.
I'm going to add one more point because I forgot to mention it myself, but the viewers may find it interesting. Go ahead and watch her last 5 races. And I swear to you, you may decide, like I did, that she seems to have more of an aggressive run on synthetic rather than the turf. I have her as a synthetic horse, but a nose for the wire. But I'm not using her because she's cheaper.
All right, Pounce.
Okay, I'll open up with Pounce. Dylan Davis has been riding lights out, so they're going to Dylan Davis from Castellano in this race. I always have an underlying respect for Mark Casse. Very expensive filly, purchased for $370,000 as a yearling. I had quite a few check marks for her because I like the way she's training, particularly the last workout on the lawn at Saratoga, three furlongs on the lawn, following a bullet workout at Saratoga on the soil. Progressing nice. She's won 3 out of 6. I list her as a contender. She made my handicap, but 4th on my board. Underneath 2 of them I mentioned, my top choice and the 3, and then another horse who I haven't gotten to yet. But talented, improving. I wouldn't argue for anybody even using her in your multi-race wagering, a decision I need to make. She's definitely going to be used underneath, and I may even use her in my pick 5s.
Big race, Jim.
Yeah, she's been running well. Dylan, like we've talked about, is riding well so far. She's tops on the class list on Brisnet, so I think, deserves to be included for that fact alone. Outside of the Galabrand and oversubscribed, which got higher late pace figures just because of the way that race set up last time. So, depending on how you want to look at that, looking at Pounce's late pace figures, which, on the grass, I think is a really strong indicator of who's going to be, there and in the mix at the end. She's going to be one of them. And, I'm on Monument Gold for my top pick, but Pounce for sure is one that I'll be using in multi-race tickets for sure.
Yeah, no knock on Pounce. Like Sweet Rebecca, I think she's one of the ones that you have to beat. I actually like the switch to Dylan Davis. He's riding in very good form and making the most of his opportunities, and this is a big opportunity for him. So I think he'll have this filly in the right spot and really be, getting everything that he can out of her. But I'm on a different horse, but I wouldn't talk anybody off this particular horse. But we'll see.
Okay, cool. Lemon Muffin. I'll be pretty brief with her. You got to love the coach, Dwayne Lucas. Santana's going to be up. Another jockey change. Many jockeys have rode this horse. I was rather impressed going way back to the Honeybee at Oaklawn Park. She won in a big number, and you thought that maybe she would move forward from that. But since that race, she's been really dull, flat, unenthusiastic. And now the coach, what is he doing? He's looking to shock the world and putting this horse on a mile on the turf. I'm not buying it. I respect Lucas and his ways of, trying things and keeping his horses active. But off the board to me, can't win on a turf versus this bunch.
Yeah, I think.
I was just going to say I agree with what Walter says here, but I think that's just a good point to bring out that those Gulfstream shippers do have a tendency to underperform at Saratoga. But go ahead. I'm sorry.
Just real quick on Lemon Muffin. I just think this is a classic example of a horse that jumps up and wins one race that they're not expected to, and then they just get placed in weird races that just don't suit them. And to Geo's point, showing up in a mile race on the grass, just completely bizarre.
If she wins, I'll buy you 100 lemon muffins. They make a very nice lemon poppy seed muffin over here at a place that's not too far from me. I'll send you 100 of them if she wins.
Hey, what's his name? Howie. He must have liked that because that was good comedy. That's good stuff there, John.
I didn't mean to be funny. I'm serious. I'll send you
Yeah.
100 months.
Yeah, I can't see the horse. I wouldn't bet that horse with your money.
Okay.
All right, Magic Cross. However, this horse, let me tell you something. You know, I'm a big fan of Bill Mott, and I don't like this horse in this race. I don't. I like, if anything, I like the other Bill Mott who you're on, John. So I'll be brief, but this horse makes a debut going a mile on the weeds, debut as a 3-year-old, obviously ran as a juvenile 3 times, so hasn't been out since last August. But you gotta respect Mott. The horse needs to run faster. It is a daughter of good magic, has tactical speed. I actually hope they scratch this horse because I got to get into detail of another horse I like in the also eligibles. I think they may even scratch this horse because even though I like Bill Mott, I don't know if this is a good spot. A mile on the weeds, that kind of a layoff, even though with speed, you know, I just, you know, I mean, it's a gut check, and I don't know why he's doing it, but he's doing it. So I'm not using Magic Cross, and I'm hoping the horse scratches because I fear Bill Mott's intentions.
Maybe he's doing it to ensure a fast pace for the other horse.
He may. I want to hear what you have to say, John and Jim. Go ahead. Who's next?
Yeah, I mean, that was my note. To John's point, just an early pace factor, but there's not really anything else that is getting me overly excited about this horse. And you know, really long layoff. You know, we'll see, but you know, not one that I'm excited to bet.
Yeah, and John, one other thing before John goes, I forgot to mention the only horse the race. Well, the horse won twice, but the P. Johnson was this beaten down field of 4 horses at Saratoga on an off the turfer. I just had to mention that just in case others don't see that. That's all. Go ahead, John.
I think she is probably fresh and moving to the grass, probably the pace of the race, especially if the star guitar horse that big race Jim likes doesn't take to the weeds. I think she's in there to ensure a fast pace for Galibrand. But I do also think that she's eligible to go forward as a 3-year-old and go forward on the grass. I don't dismiss her as an upset possibility. But again, I like the other Mott horse a lot better. So I do think that she's, you know, helpful to me in there because she can, you know, assure a fast pace, which, you know, Galibrand is going to need some pace if she's going to win. So hopefully this horse helps her get that, and we'll see. But if she won, I honestly wouldn't be shocked. And if she did go to the lead and forget to stop and likes the grass, I wouldn't be shocked.
Okay, good point. I'm going to start. I want to get into the also eligible, not all 3, unless you guys have comments. I want to make a comment on the 12 Goa. The horse, and by the way, I had to dig a little deep for this because I'm not as aware of things in European racing as you are, John, but I did check things out. So if I get one scratch, because I don't think Linda Rice's horse will get in. If you notice Linda Rice, she's got a ton of also eligibles all the time. And this horse has 1 turf race. So I know Golden Degree is going to scratch. So if I get one other scratch, especially if the 10 scratches, I think the 12 could be an absolute handful. And here's why. So I ranked the 12 third in my handicap under the 6 and the 3. So my top choice is Rebecca, Sweet Rebecca, and my second choice is the 3, the horse that ran over in Dubai. But the 12 made my board for different reasons. It's Chad Brown. I like the turf pedigree. And those 4 races in France, and John, correct me if I'm wrong, I know she was well bet, winning her last 2. But the company, there was some Group 1 or Group 2 company in those fields. And now they're bringing over for the U.S. debut, training rather nice at Saratoga. If she gets in on the weeds here, I think she's going to be a handful after running those 4 races in France on a synthetic. So I'd like to know what your thoughts are on that horse.
No argument from me. If she gets in, she actually may wind up being my top choice.
Wow, I want to hear more. Go ahead, John.
I think she's. I agree with everything you said. I think she could be a handful if she gets in. My biggest knock is not so much on her ability or the company she kept or how she's going to run, because she can finish. There's no question about that. That's just a very, very tough draw at this distance at Saratoga. So that's always a concern to me. I try not to make too much out of post positions. And I do think that's often an overrated angle, or an angle that people put too much emphasis on. But the 12 or 11 hole going a mile around Saratoga's grass course, both of them, is not an ideal spot to be in. So she would need things to have to break her way or be all that in order to overcome it. But I definitely think that she has the potential to be that. And if we don't hear a lot from her on Saturday, we will later on down the year. I think she's a runner for sure. I've had my eye on her since she was over there. So she's on my list. I have a list of European horses that I watch to see if they're going to come over here, and that I think can do well over here. And she's been on it for a while. So
the two, I had the 2 horses that she beat in the last. They went on to win Group 2s, if I have it right.
Yeah, I believe you are correct. So yeah, she's a handful if she gets in. If she gets in, and Chad may scratch her too, because he may not be wild about that post, and he's got those other 2 that he likes. So he may, play it very coy and say, you know what, I'm going to run her when she winds up with a better draw in a better spot than sneaking in here, with those other 2 in there. But we'll see. You never know. If she gets in and she runs, absolutely a contender, in my opinion.
Interesting. One thing I noted on my handicap, if she's in, I'm going strong 6'3" and 6'12", and the 6'12" would be a Chad exacta without the 2 in.
We got a question for Jim. Jim, do you and your brother have a show this week?
Yeah, we're going to cover the Shug.
He got hot last week.
I know, he did pretty good. He had that spot play with It's a Miracle on Sunday, and then as is always the case, we went 2 for 3 in the pick 3 and had nothing to show for it. But yeah, we're going to record a show tomorrow night covering the Shuvy, and either a double or a pick 3 around that race, and we'll have that up for everybody ahead of the weekend. So yeah, it's coming.
All right. Ride with us. You'll never starve. We'll wrap it up now. We went a really long time. We're an hour and a half, so I don't want to destroy everybody's night. But I will say this. My Shuvy pick is Raging Sea.
Okay, and I don't have an opinion on this Shuvy because I haven't handicapped the rate, but I do want to tell everybody who's watching, stay tuned. It'll be tomorrow night. I have a lot of work to do tomorrow. Massive coverage on the Haskell. I'll be doing a Haskell show on my own. And if you follow me, I'll be providing a full card grid on Haskell Day.
Yeah. That's going to be great. That United Nations looked absolutely loaded. That's probably going to be the most exciting race of the day, in my view. Fierceness skips. Again, John, like we've been talking about for a while, I wouldn't be shocked if he even skips the Jim Dandy and skips the Travers and skips everything else.
I got a feeling that might be
running out of time, I feel like.
I got a feeling that might be what happened, and I find it very interesting that it looks like, at least to our inquiring eyes and inquiring minds that want to know, it does look like, interesting that he's not going to the Haskell where they announced he was going, and And Gio, you brought out a very good point about Johnny V being named on that horse here when he's supposed to be over there. So can't be two places at one time. Although Paco already rode at Saratoga and then went to win the stake later in the day at Monmouth, so it can happen. But
I don't know if any of the jocks have any plans, because the Saratoga Saturday is going to seem different because you got some monster riders going to be at Saratoga, going to be at Monmouth for the day.
Those other guys like to win races on those days, so that's an opportunity for them. Okay, that's it, everybody.
Right.
I think we covered an awful lot. Always a pleasure. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Thank you, AmWager, for letting us do these shows. Check out AmWager and all their promos at amwager.com. Fantastic platform. And I guess that we can wrap it up.
Absolutely. And any comments, don't hesitate. Let us know what you think. Show some love. Comments. Share us.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you, everybody. Okay. Ciao, ciao.
Nobody does it better.
All right, John.